I want to introduce our speaker, but I want to tell you the title of the presentation for today is Introduction to Blue Teaming. And a few of you know actually this topic is very close and dear to my heart. It's one of my favorite topics. And and I'm really excited that Anthony actually, I think he attended one of our meetup before, and I just kind of say, hey, can you do can you do a talk for us? And I thought the answer would be no, but he said yes. So I was really excited. So um, I'm going to just introduce Anthony based on the bio he provided to me. And Anthony Choi is our speaker, and he's a principal engineer at the Aerospace Corporation. His primary focus is cybersecurity and advanced computing platform. He's a certified information system security professional with experiences in both space systems engineering, yeah, and corporate IT security. So please join me to welcome Anthony. And Anthony, the floor is yours.
Perfect. So welcome again. My name is Anthony Choi. So just administrative stuff. It's just the way my computer is set up. My big screen is on my left and the camera is actually to my right. So if I look like I'm looking away from you all, it's because I'm trying to read my screen and my old eyes cannot have a tiny print. So I apologize for that. So yeah, so my name is Anthony Choi. I work for the Aerospace Corporation. One of the things I'm actually doing right now is helping our customers setting up their test teams. So this topic is actually it was right in a time when I got reassigned to that task, and I go, well, let's talk about this. So it was perfect timing that caused this to happen. So as we talk about this, and then we'll go through some of the definitions. In order for an event like this to happen, a collaborative vulnerability assessment event is usually you have three teams. You have the blue team, you have the red team, and you also have the white team. So we'll talk a little bit about what blue teaming really is. I know that people always said the red team is more exciting. Actually, the blue team does the most work, and it's really, really hard. And most of the blue team people, most likely, were red team at one point. So some of the things that you'll see me talking about is really talking about a mindset of what you need to think about. Is you really have to be curious as a blue team member, and you have to think like a red team member in order to be successful in blue teaming. So with that said, I'm going to move on to the next page. I provide a lot of definitions here of what blue teaming is, because a blue team, a lot of people think about blue teaming is just defending, right? You have a bunch of cybersecurity professionals and sitting there and try to defend a network, a system under test. However, a blue teaming event is much more than that. I'll go a little bit deeper into the next when we talk about the makeup of the team. But if you see here, I'm not going to read it to you all. But a blue team is really comprised of a bunch of people. If you think about it, it's really talking about a sustained monitoring of a system during a period of time when you're doing a red-blue team capability. It's also, you want to make sure when you're doing the test or you're doing blue teaming is under the context of your operational environment. Vulnerability assessments, which I will go into a little bit, is a little bit different than blue teaming, right? Vulnerability assessment is the beginning of your blue teaming, is understanding what your system is doing and what it needs to be done. So that's going to be a part of it, right? So that's the main thing. In a second, I'll also talk about understanding the rule of engagement, and that is understanding your white team. What is your white team going to tell you what to do? And lastly, the blue teaming is not just cybersecurity professionals. They're talking about the normal operational network people as well. They're talking about people who actually will look at the vulnerability during the network when it's in regular operation, and provide techniques that people are actually going to be used in a day-to-day environment. One of the things that we have to be careful about, and this is where I was stand on my first soapbox a little bit, is that blue teaming is not an event that is one and done. And I will say that again in the later on. Not only that, you have to apply what you have learned into your daily SOC or whatever that you have in your company that allows you to protect the network. It is truly putting your team in stress. You're now providing your operational team along with your cybersecurity team and making sure that you have a day-to-day team that actually works well in an environment when you're under duress. So that's going to be important. This is one of my favorite definitions out of NIST. It's just because it's more comprehensive. As I'll show you, there are others who just simply say, hey, these are the things that we have to do. So that's the first definition for NIST. From NIST, what about blue teaming? Blue teaming is. CrowdStrike is another one. I was just wondering what other people were doing, because I do things on the more of the public service side. So I'm looking into other companies that actually does this for a living, right? So this is a definition that comes in with from CrowdStrike. I just use CrowdStrike as an example, not because I use them, not because I like them. It's just that the definition is pretty consistent throughout the industry. And this is one thing that they say, it's just to improve to make improvement to stop sophisticated attacks, types of cyber attacks and threats, right? The important thing is threats. And the reason why it is important to understand your blue teaming in the context of your operations. Threats are everywhere. As I explained to my boss and to others, it does not become a risk to you if your threat is there still entry point to your system. When I say entry point, it has to be something that you analyze, understand the kill chain events of the cyber events. But understanding the operational environment, understanding the threats, understanding the risk, what you're going to take, is going to be important as a blue teamer, because you're going to be faced with a lot of those attacks into you, and you have to decide which one you're going to respond to first, right? And which one you worth deeming to be protected. I just happened to come across this definition of a breakout time is understanding that as you are going through the metrics, as you're going through some of the blue teaming events, and you will see it in a little bit when I talk about time tag your data, understand how long it took you to bring back up your system. It's going to be important. That's what people are going to be interested in knowing. Essentially, no one's going to be interested. Well, they are interested in knowing that you were down. What they want to know is, can you come out of that attack okay? Can you trust your data again? Can you trust your network again? What have you done to ensure that your system is back to 50% operational, 60% operational, 100% preferably, right? But how do you know that now you're safe again? So that's something that's the metrics that you have to keep on reports and such like that. And that's why it's important for you to repeat the exercise over and over again. It is not once and done and get out. But we'll talk about it a little bit more. But also remember, I think that's one thing that right before we started this conversation, is that the hardest part of being a blue teamer or a defender is this: we have to be right all the time, meaning we have to be able to protect almost and assess and understand that we're under attack almost on a daily basis. Red teaming, they just don't have to be correct once, or the attack only have to be correct once before they can get to the crown jewel. I will talk about that a little bit more. But most importantly, we got to understand this, right? Is that we are in every day. I mean, I'm sure someone's trying to hack into this Zoom call somehow. There are so many events. What is more important? What do we do to make sure we provide the reliable, the three canons of cybersecurity, right? Confidentiality, integrity, and availability to our team. So there's another one. There's another one, a simpler one, at CSOonline.com, that says that the internet security team is charged with stopping the simulated red team attacks. Again, the attacks are there. We know how they were going to be deployed. We should know what people want to attack and get through to us. So what do we do, right? I think lastly, this is just from this gentleman. I just looked at it and giving you a perspective, kind of like a snapshot of how the government looks at it. If you look at NIST as the government looking at it, how a commercial company that actually does it for a living look at it. A CSO environment where a more broad environment on the whole topic looks at it, and this is how an individual in the field look at it, right? So it gives you a spectrum of all the definitions that comes around. But this one is talking about, standard security. Blue team is different, right? Blue team is a little bit different because now you are running tests. In the way I'm looking at it, you're running tests that is actually in concurrence, and you need experts from many fields to make sure this happens, right? And you have to make sure after all this blue teaming is done, you have, I would say, simplify it so that the daily operational environment team and the regular cybersecurity team has the tools they need to be operational without you being there. So I'll talk about that a little bit more, a little bit. Any questions so far? I saw 4 chats popping up.
There were just comments input,
Okay.
So including mine, and I definitely want to learn more about. I'm selfish, so I'm just talking about my personal thing. Sorry, being an extrovert, where I just go off and say the things I wanted to learn. I want to learn a little bit more about breakout time. Definitely not going to take up your time. Maybe we can talk afterwards. Yeah. And then Tuan says it's a nice game to play. So I'm not sure is he being sarcastic. I think he is. And then Char mentioned about purple teaming is important, and detection should not be noticing a ransomware note. So those are some of the comments. I don't see any questions. Perfect. So great.
So one of the things I want to talk about is the team's configuration, right? I think a lot of times I have seen situations where they threw the operational team with a regular cybersecurity team in there, and without prepping them how to be able to react in an environment where they are going to be pressed to respond to certain things. And a lot of times they actually don't have enough experts to show up, right? So this is something for food for thought for you to think about in a team configuration. Is you really want to have first of all, you need to understand your network. So that's something that I stress in the prep slide. But in the team configuration, you want to have experts in this exercise that understands the major pieces of your system and the devices that you're going to be used within the system under test. You'll be surprised. Sometimes, a lot of times, there will be, if a test is happening, they forget to invite the network administrators, or they invited one who think that they can respond to all the things at once. No, you need those people to be in your team to actually plan for all the events, right? You need coders, because a lot of times you will find during the initial assessment of your network, you need to build sensors within your network. So you need those coders to actually write codes for you so that you can actually react to things. So, and that's one of the things I'm going to point to. You need dashboards and all the good stuff. Those are the people who are going to help you to understand what you need in your those are people who's going to be able to help you to build some of the more specific sensors that is going to be helping you with your network. Third, your operational monitoring team, right? You want to be able to you want to put the people in the team that already is part of that monitoring team. You want to see how they react and see what the process is. And your job as well. So before I go on, I realized I did not actually put us on the team, right? Because in my head I already assumed that the cybersecurity team that actually going to run the test is going to be part of the test. But this is in addition to you that is assigned to run this test. It's the operational team. One of the things that we will notice that the operational team sometimes does not know the tools. That's dangerous. By having the blue teaming event, not only assess you on your cybersecurity posture, it also assess you whether or not you're ready for an attack. We're not going to be ready for everything, but that gives you a risk acceptance level and say this is the level of teaming I'm willing to have in my environment because I think that we have enough protection here and there, right? And then lastly, your operators, your innocent bystanders, so to speak. Do these people understand how to behave in case of a cyber attack, right? you want to put this in the context of what your system is doing on a daily basis. That's very important. If you do your blue teaming as an isolated event, that's not going to help you. That's not going to help how you're going to react on a daily basis. That is just going to give you a snapshot of how your system works. A lot of it is the human reactions and the human interactions to your systems when you are under attack. So that's going to be very important how all these things works. So any questions on the team configuration so far? I see 11 things popping up, but I'm not going to read it unless.
So they're just comments, and there's only one question really from Tuan says, what is the best language to learn for blue teaming? And Char mentioned about PowerShell and also Python. What are your thoughts on this? Because my background is software engineering, so I'm not going to comment about this. I was going to say every programming language. No, I'm just kidding. Or Bash, but that's very Linux based. So what is your thoughts on that, the language for blue teaming?
Right. So it depends on what's in your system, right? And what kind of tools that you have already existing in your capability to build it, right? For example, I know that when we're building our stuff, we try to match the language that our tools requires, right?
True.
If we're having a certain tool and your monitor and the device monitoring it can only interact with certain languages, then that's the code you need. There is no one language that you need or one specific skill set you need in that team because I think I would be amiss to say that if you're a Windows shop and you hire a bunch of Linux people, we have a problem.
Oh, come on, you guys, come on. Anthony.
No, but that's the thing. I think a lot of it is people. I was just joking, but at the end of the day, what is appropriate for your system is not going to be appropriate for someone else's system, right? If you're doing a lot of data analysis or data engineering, Python might be the thing for you. But what if your monitoring tool does not interact with Python properly, right? We have situations where I have seen sensors being written, and a lot of them in C, and it turns out one of the tools would not interact with C and did not integrate with C properly.
I see.
We have to find someone who actually knows how to interact with that sensor, because the sensor has to be in a system that is not common. So it really depends. You really have to do the analysis. Right. As the blue team lead, you really have to go through the analysis and go through what the threat factors are and what are your crown jewels.
Well, sounds like a lot of stress for the blue team lead. But Pierre Tor, I'm not sure if I pronounced your name right. He asked, do you build your own stuff or integrate already established tools? I like to hear that, because there's a lot of times we talk about, do we purchase new tools or build, whatever. So what are your thoughts on that? Build your own stuff or integrate with already established tools?
So generally, if you have a corporate environment, they will have tools that's already established, right? But there are going to be times where your corporate tool is not going to be enough, and that's when you have to build your own tools. Let me see if I can say this without. Yeah, there's just going to be certain things that we cannot rely on the regular network scan or a regular alert based on what you're doing in your industry. It really isn't. It really is that. Now, of course, if you do a regular corporate, a small business or whatnot, and you're going in as a blue team for them and whatnot, yeah, chances are those companies are going to be able to. You can use regular tools that's already meant for regular network, meant for regular day-to-day business kind of stuff. But for what I've seen, that there are still for larger companies that has complex backends, there is still a need for creating your own sensors or tools to make sure it works, because not all systems are built equal, and not all systems are built at the same time. Let me just put it that way.
And I also want to add on something that we don't usually talk about when we think we work on a cybersecurity team. Everything is a brand new project, and we
Mhm,
have the shiny tools and whatnot. But in reality, some of the project you work on might be you have to work with legacy applications. In that
mhm.
way, you really can't just use something out of the door and then use it. You actually have to program it and whatnot. So I just want to bring that out. Some of the recent college graduates, they usually think, well, I'm just going to use this and that, and that's not, because there are going to be a legacy application that you have to integrate your tools with. In that case, you might have to do your customized code. I mean, write your code to work with that. Am I correct, Anthony?
It is true. I mean, if you think about it, some of the business, the back end processing power is not Windows system still. They could be something that is out of the 1980s or 1990s. Some of the banking capability is still run by, server farms that not, well, I shouldn't say none of us have heard of because I'm old enough to hear about most of them, hear of both of them. But can you? I mean, that's the thing. If you run your system back end deep buried into a large company somewhere, um, that needs to be done, then how are you going to protect it? You know, then if you cannot, you rely on your regular skill sets, well, the normal skill sets that you've learned at this point. I mean, to be honest, this is about 10 years ago, whatever. We actually have to command line. Um, it was an odd situation where I had to deal with a system that actually with DOS. It's because my background when I first started, I understood how to build DOS environments, and I was able to help out and just build the environment so we can test it. But how many people are actually using DOS nowadays? Now this is 10 years ago, maybe. So I think that's why I think I'm not going to tell you that these are the things, these are language you must know, or the skills that you would need to know. But command line is something that you probably want to do it, because the chances are, I do agree with that, is because chances are, if something is down, you probably have to take it down to to that level to understand the kernel, to see what is being attacked and stuff like that. So that's why you really need experts in those areas to be part of your team. And there's no way. I mean, for us as team leads, or for you and you guys putting a team together, to know everything, right? I do have a background in Windows. I do have a background in Linux. I do have a background in networking. But those are because I chose to pick those to understand it, because so when I talk to my team and say this is what I want to detect and these are the things I'm expecting to do, at least I can talk the same language to them. But am I able to be the expert doing the protection or even the attacks nowadays? I wouldn't bank on anyone having that ability. That's why making the team where you are, to make sure that you have the right team is going to be very, very important. Any more questions?
No, that's it. There's no
Good. Okay, sorry. My kid was trying to get my attention and open the door, and now I cannot hear you guys. I got hacked by kids. Okay. I gotta. Sorry. Okay, so this is important as you're doing your preparation. You need to start with a tabletop review of the system, right? You need to understand what exists in your system. What are the controls within your system? You need to interview the operators, tell them, figure out what are they expecting to see on a daily basis. Talk to the business side of people, understand what is your crown jewel, right? This is really going to help you to build the cybersecurity kill chain events in your system, right? You're going to go, okay, if you guys have a monitoring tool and it pops up to a daily operator, do they know how to react to it? I have talked to teams where they go, oh, wow, we have so many alerts popping out. I just close them all, and trust me, how many of us have looked at Windows, pop-up windows, you just automatically close it in a Windows environment, because we don't. We have so many messages coming up. That's important. You want to understand the behavior of the people and start tuning your capability around them, right? Getting the crown jewel is important because you want to minimize the risk of those being attacked. If you're being attacked in a organized manner, and people are going to send flares all over your network, and you didn't know about what your crown jewel is and what are the kill chain events, that is going to trigger you going, oh my gosh, they're attacking that thing right there. That's so important because now I'm going through my kill chain. If you don't do that and you just respond to alerts everywhere, you're bound to be confused and be blind. Also, when you're preparing for the blue team event, understand the rules of engagement. That's when you talk to the white team and see what are some of the pitfalls that you need to be aware of, because they can say, we understand this area is vulnerable, but we're not testing this part. That has happened. And then they would tell you ground rules and say, don't bother with this one. And if you just spend a lot of time building sensors on that one and ignore other stuff because you feel that that portion is something you should look at, then you have just failed the test too. So that even though it's against some of my instincts, and when they go, oh, don't look at that part of the system, that's the part I want to look at, but understand the ground rules. That will make you successful in understanding what else needs to be done. I made a point here. One of my coworkers who helped me put the slide deck together is they want to make sure that you understand all events are timestamps, because that's the only way you can trace what has happened within your kill chain or trace what happens during the time. Understanding your systems data is going to be very important. Let's see, patch the system. Of course, as you're going through the process, start working on your cybersecurity postures, patch it, fix it, so that you know what are some of the vulnerabilities are. Here's the important part about patching, right? Even the fact that you cannot patch something, now you know where your vulnerabilities are and what you need to do, and do your proper risk analysis. If I know that I have patched 99 machines and there's one machine I couldn't patch, we have to figure out if that's going to be part of your kill chain. We won't be able to protect everything, but understanding the proper posture is going to give you a very good. It's going to get you input into how you do your risk assessment. All the good stuff, right? This is all do during your own vulnerability assessment. Turn off anything that's unnecessary. I think sometimes we forget some of the systems are coming with a lot of ports open or a lot of services open. This gives you a chance to understand your system. If you do not understand how your system operates, you're not going to be able to defend it. So turn off things that is not needed. So when you see an alert popping up, Windows port 39 is open, then you know that there might be potential attack, because then you know that there is a vulnerability in there that they're using the port 39, for example. Make sure there's a place to store your logs. Understand where your data is. Correlate those data, making sure that's timestamps in those data. Make sure that it's secure, because if you do not have enough data and you do not analyze that data, you don't know. You need to know what your normal day-to-day operation looks like, and your logs and your traffic logs, your security logs, your operational logs can help you make the determination what is normal. I'm gonna put that in quotes, because you've got to understand what's normal. And one of the things I'm going to strive, I'm not sure if I put it in here, is that human interaction sometimes is going to be too slow. Think about it. The red team, most likely, if you're fighting against a team of script kiddies, they're just going to blind you with activities, right? If you're the one using human interactions to understand your logs, I think I said it in the next slide, is that you have lost the battle. So one of the things that you want to do is able to say, okay, do I have other means to help me analyze stuff, right? Normalizing your network, understanding what your normal activity is going to be, is going to help you, because now you're going to rely on some tools to help you analyze whether or not something happens. And then that's when you can grade your alert. If it's alert that people need to react immediately, or a potential problem, so stuff like that, so people can understand your grading a little bit. So we're talking about creating sensors to detect anomalies and tools to shut down attacks. That is where we're going to talk about. That's where you're going to be able to say, this is not a normal attack. This is not a normal activity. I will use use my tools to slap down attacks at this point. You can't do that if you don't understand your own logs data. And remember, this is in preparation section. It's not during the exercise section. Once you understand all these, you have to prioritize your alerts and your defensive responses. Look at your kill chains. Figure out which one is more important. Figure out how you're going to alert the blue team as this is happening. These are the potential things, and this is the crown jewel they're going to get to. Okay. And then lastly, institute dashboards if they're not already in use. Very important. Get those dashboards in there so the operators get used to it, so your incident response teams know what they mean. By the time if you wait till the event is going to happen and not prep people to do it, it's too late. That's another soapbox I'll get on for now. Okay, I know there are some comments, but
yeah, there are comments. So
okay.
Yeah, I don't think there was. Oh, maybe there was a question about. It goes back about prevention. Well, maybe we can find it later. Moti. Okay. I can't pronounce the name. Pyotar. Do you think using multifunctional intrusion protection system that is IIS one to rule them all, or go to a defense in depth that is better to use more than more distributed network defense? So there were some answers provided by Dante or whatever. Can you see that question?
I saw that. I
Okay.
think, do you think using multifunctional IPS that is one to rule them all, or go defense in depth, is better to use more than that and make it more distributed network defense? I mean, it sounds like I might sound like a broken record. It really depends how your company is laid out, right? I know they're good. I know that we thought about using IPSs can be dangerous, just because if you don't tune it properly, you're going to give yourself a denial of service attack. So going through these exercises, understanding how your network response is going to be important as you the architect that is going to build into your environment. Of course, there are certain things, right? Defense in depth is always good. I'm still in the school of thought that I need to know what all my external and internal connections are, so that I know how to protect it. I'm the type of cybersecurity person that just goes hard in the shell and then go all the way in. Right? Some people like to go in the middle, and then some people like to do different things differently. But I'm just giving you full disclosure that I'm that kind of person that, okay, I need to find where my boundary is, right? Even if you're in a cloud environment, public cloud environment, or private cloud environment, there is a place where it's going to enter into your network where you have control, right? People always said, the public cloud, I lose all my control. No, you don't. You need to understand what the shared responsibility model is. And when it comes to your responsibility, that's your entry point to your environment, right? Sure, you gave up some control because of others are now helping you protect it, but you just have to trust and rely on those people. And then you build a little bit into yourself and says, okay, if those guys, if the people who are providing my external protection, if they fail a little bit, can I build into my system a little bit more of protection and let me know that maybe some of the controls have failed on the other side? But there's always an entry point into your environment where you need to be done. So it depends on your needs, and a lot of times, and amazingly, and I'm not trying to defend it, is that a lot of times depends on how much your budget is, right? That is part of your determination too. The exercise is going to expose to your vulnerability. But a lot in reality, how you end up defending your system is going to be based on the business need, number one. I think Dante and I and Linux Girl have talked about a little bit, is really your business needs. And number two, how much budget you have. The exercise will expose the vulnerability, but it would not provide you the business needs and the money that you have to put to build those environments. That is something that you, as a cybersecurity professional, need to provide is the risk. What is the risk? And then let the people in upper ups make the final decision as to what they need to do. I think this is my third soapbox now. Cybersecurity to me, as a practitioner, is never the mission. The mission is almost all the time something else. Our job is to provide the proper risk so that people in the decision-making process can understand what risk they're taking and provide us the money and the tools to defend it. So, the running joke is that we do not want to provide us, give ourselves a self-denial service attack, because a lot of times people are so into protecting the system they forgot what the system is for. I kind of equate it into a building, right? I see the way I look at cybersecurity is really like how you build a building. Physical security. A lot of things in the cyber world is almost a mirror image into what is in the physical world. We all live in buildings, right? We all go to work in the buildings, and I think we talked about it a little bit earlier. The most secure building is probably a building with no doors, right? When we on the corresponding side, the most secure building is a computer with no internet connection, probably powered off. But what does that do to your business, right? Because now that we have to do business, there is someone open a door. In the cybersecurity equivalent is now you open a port, right? Same thing. You put cameras. True. You put cameras on the corners of your building, so that you can watch everything. But you don't put a corner in every single foot of a corridor. Same thing. You put sensors and you put devices in your network so that it does not kill your real-time response to something, right? If you're running analysis and whatnot in your business case and you need it to be done within a few minutes, but your cybersecurity tools have slowed you down that you cannot provide the answers for more than 5-6 minutes, then you just kill your business case to do something, right? So the way I see cybersecurity is really kind of like physical security, right? What do you need to do by the time you get to the crown jewel? I mean, in a lot of cases, who is the most important person in the physical security world is who's important, the people, right? How do you stop name your attack to the employees? How many steps you need to go so they can detect it and stuff like that. So that's how I approach cybersecurity as well. So, okay. All right, I pull long-term backups to machine learning.
Hey,
That
Anthony,
works too. Yes.
I just have a quick question regarding to budget. So,
Mhm.
and you made a good point, like we need to know what exactly is the mission of whatever, right? The software or whatnot. And understanding it, then you can properly assess the defense of in depth. Now, with budget, also this is tied with the customer. A lot of things that whatever you do, you need to get customer approval for that kind of stuff, right? So
Right.
I don't want to. I mean, depend on which industry, right? And so I definitely agree with what you're saying, because there's times there are going to be times the software engineers tell me, hey, this is not important because XYZ. So I understand the domain better. Why are they saying this is not? And then I have to, go off and, work on my side to get customer approval, whatnot. But budget is the thing. If you don't have money, what do you do? I mean, and then, so if you don't have budget, Anthony, what do you typically do? You choose the most important thing to work on, right? I mean.
And this is where you have to strike a balance between using open source tools or using tools that you can that's what open source tools is important. And also sometimes when you have the ability to create your own sensors and your own tools, that's important too, right? Again, if you can actually present to the decision makers what the, sorry, my phone, I still have a desk home line. If you can present to your customer or to your decision makers, go, these are the true facts. This is what's going to happen, and this is how long it takes for an attacker to get into our crown jewel. You'll be surprised how much the decision maker is willing to move to make sure that you have the budget, right? It is the fact that if we don't do these exercises and we just go, well, I'm guessing this is going to happen, and or you run an exercise where it is just it's not a operational context based. People don't feel like they can trust the analysis, and they will not come to you with money. A lot of things that I think the problem is that I think a lot of times, and I'm not, this is just me, right? A lot of times there are people out there who make cybersecurity to be this mysterious thing that they say, oh yeah, no one will understand it, only I can do it, so you must trust me. Demystify it. Really, it is just like any other risk, right? When we're scanning our software, cybersecurity wise or functional wise, you're taking a risk. When you're doing the functional test, and even if you pass your unit test, 100% integration test, there are corner cases that is going to crash your software. That's just the way it is, and that's the same thing we do in cybersecurity. It's going to be, there are corner cases that's going to get through to your system. Be honest with that. Just say, hey, these are what we know. This is what we can do to secure your system, and demystify it. Look, it is not a glorious job. I get it. I always joke around because I used to be this. On the corporate IT side of the house, I was the director of cybersecurity, and the people freak out when I call them up. As simple as, hey, I need to talk about your business requirements. They're like, oh my God, the cybersecurity director is calling me. What's going on? Demystify it. Have those conversations with those people so they don't feel like they are in trouble every time you talk to them. Have a pleasant conversation and build those relationships. Dante and Linux girls talked about building those relationships internally so that within the cybersecurity environment. But it's also important as we are going out in the real world, or as all of us work in the real world, you've got to build those relationships with the decision makers, and to also work with the business case owners. So the only way those people will trust you is that they believe that you know what they need, right? That's going to be important, and that's not part of the presentation, but I guess that's my fourth soapbox that I get on is really getting people to give you the buy-in that you need. So, but if you try to mystify everything, people either blow you off, or people are not going to listen to you. Well, I guess that would be blowing you off. Okay. Any questions so far? Right.
No, just comments about Peter said, show the cost of breach against the cost of tool. I'm sorry. I was like, how do you show the cost of the sorry, I'm just excited when I heard that.
Well, there's truth in that.
It depends on what a crown jewel is, right? I think one of the things that, like for example, if your crown jewel is a customer database and you have 1 million people on your database, what is the cost to your reputation if 10% of the database is lost, 50% of the database lost, 100% of the database lost? How is that going to affect your company? Can you take the hit financially if that's the case, right? If the tool is $1 million, let's say the tool is $1 million, and your daily revenue is 20, right? And you're like, oh my God, 1/20th of my budget is going to go through there, or revenue is going to go through there. But if 100% of your database is lost, you just have a revenue of 0. What's better, right? So those are the things that you have to look into and present to those people. If it only takes one step to get to your 1 million database of customers, we have a huge problem. If it takes like 20 million steps and you have enough sensors to tell you on the way, maybe it's a different story. Yep, Tuan is right. So anyway, So let's get back on track a little bit during the exercise. Again, this is where you're going to start learning what are the alerts that you need to chase after, right? If your goal as a team lead or as part of a team is to chase after all the alerts that you see, you're going to get down in a rabbit hole. One time, I was in an event. I happened to be the white team, and the blue team was not experienced, and they literally did not have the tools and the skill set to actually defend. And the red team is being very red team, professional red team, and they were going to go. I'm going to go through all the kill chains one thing at a time, and we'll document everything. As a white team, I jokingly turned to the red team. I go, why don't you just blind them? They can't respond. There's no point of being silent. At that point, as the white team, I want to know how good the blue team is, even when the attack is not silent. So they did. They blind them and the system went down. So what does that mean? That means that's where you write up in your analysis at the end is, well, did our tools work at all, even if it's not a silent attack from the red team? So that's something important for you to know, for you to adjust, right? On the first try, on your first event, you might not be able to understand all the alerts, even though you know your cyber kill chain events. You might not be, the team might not be used to it yet because they haven't seen it in action. That's okay. Learn from it. Don't get frustrated. You will not. It's not time wasted if you didn't get it right the first time. Look at the system response in totality. And I think that's one of the things that Linux Grow and talk about is the breakout mean time, right? If your system goes down, are you able to bring it back up immediately? If part of your network goes down, or if they almost got their crown jewel, but now you're able to shut down the existing environment. I'm just playing off what someone's comment is, you kept your backup onto a system that is not online, and now you bring it online because now you know that someone's getting close to your operational backend. That could be a methodology. Look at the system response in totality. Don't go, oh my God, I have 99 attacks. I did not shut down 98. If you're trying to chase down every single item, you have not looked at how to protect the system. You just, as I always say, and I do it too. Trust me. You just try to save your pride by not saying that, oh, I have shut down every single thing. No, you gotta go, okay, if I don't respond to this, would I be able to save the system? Or what is the right thing to respond to? It's very important. Dashboards, that's going to be the thing that saves you. And certain amount of AI and ML, artificial intelligence and machine learning is going to be important in your portfolio of tools that you'll be doing. Because if you're analyzing logs in the event, you already lost the battle. I have been situations where operators said, don't worry about it. I'll be right there. If someone breaks into this network or this environment, I'll be right there to fix it. No, you won't. Because if someone really wants you to get to a system, they have the resources, to just flood you, right? If you think you can use heroic efforts to save the system while it's under attack, without a game plan, I just have not seen it happen. But that's why you need operators and people who are using the system to be on the blue team, because they can now see what happens when the system is under attack. What happens when multiple environments within your network is being overwhelmed, right? Because to a user, they just go, well, as long as my equipment is okay, I'm fine, right? Well, there are a lot of things that happens in the back end that is going to affect your ability to do work. Letting those people see it is part of the education for those people, so they know why are we so paranoid. And one of the things we talked about is, being a cybersecurity professional is being paranoid. They don't see why we're paranoid, because they go, well, my system work and I can do my work. It's true, you can do your work, but think about the work that goes behind it to make sure your work can be done. Okay, they don't see that. Being in part of the exercise is going to allow them to see that. That's why I put that operational environment people has to be in the team, and the operational monitoring team has to be on the team as well.
Definitely. Now, Anthony, I have a question. Maybe I missed that part.
Okay.
When you do this exercise, are you running on the production systems or on dev system? I didn't get that clearly. Probably
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
So chances are we are going to build a dev environment that actually does it, right? But the dev environment has to have the ability to duplicate what is the real environment look like.
Okay.
Now, there are going to be certain times you're going to be doing it on the real environment. That's just that, because without doing it on the real environment, you won't understand, you would not experience the whole thing, right? You will not understand what needs to be done. So that's the part I'm missing. I apologize. You want to test this out with your team over and over again in a dev environment. And then when the real event, it depends on what your decision maker says. It could be on your operation environment. And then that's when you just go, okay, I got to make sure I don't break things.
Yeah, that's the scary part, right? And I've been actually experienced operational one that was, they told us like certain hour, like really, I don't know, like early in the morning where just not a lot of activity they were doing that. But thanks for explaining that, because I personally really believe no matter how much you do on the dev system, you're not going to see the real thing until you test on the production server. Okay, because that's when you see how everything tied together, all the exercise on the dev system you did, all the whatever the documentation you have, right? Because production system is the real life system. That's what I call the most important thing, right? So thanks.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I'm going to use, I think it is Netflix. It is Netflix that does what's called Chaos Monkey. They pen test the system almost on a daily basis.
Yeah, from Netflix? Is that from Netflix?
Yeah, that's on Netflix. So they would actually purposely shut down the systems. Can they recover fast enough? That is actually very important in my opinion, is that can you recover fast enough on a daily basis? So if your team is trained as if part of the system is going to go down on a daily basis, you have a robust network, right? You have a more robust network. I shouldn't say you have a robust network. You have a more robust network than a system that is not pen tested at all and assume that everything is going to work on a daily basis. I subscribe to that philosophy. Some people don't, and that's okay. But I always believe that if I know how to fix something before my adversary knows how to fix it,
true,
I'm on the leg up.
Yeah.
Right. So
yeah,
that's a very good point. Thank you. Okay. After the exercise, right? Now your exercise is done. The ones I have been in is usually around 3 to 4 days, sometimes a week. What happened? How are we going to do this, right? So one of the things, you have to review the white team's report on the metrics of the events. They should tell you exactly how many attacks the red team has done, how many attacks the white team, the blue team actually shut down. One of the really successful one I've seen is where the red team, got through with some of the attacks, but they were 80% or 90% detected by the blue team, and they were able to respond to it. One of them I've seen, like I said, where the attack, they just flooded, and there was no response from the blue team. They didn't know what was going on. They just they literally froze. So you have two spectrums. So hopefully your exercise and your events is going to be somewhere in the middle, so you can actually learn from it. Understand if any of your crown jewel is actually attacked, because that's going to be very important. Because if you tell your customers or your leader that there are 100 attacks and we defended 99% of it, 99, let's just go for 100 events and we protected 99 events, that's great. And that's some numbers I have seen from events. But when we ask what is that one event that got through, it turns out that's the least item that they want to have gone through. The other 99 were just basic stuff that That was not that important. And the one event that got through would have shut down the whole system. So you got to understand and present those properly, right? You want to be able to tell them, yeah, we found all the others, but if this attack had gone through, and it did, it would have shut us down and we wouldn't be out for X, Y, and Z time. Be honest about what you have lost, because if you do not, and I implore you, because if you do not present this confirmation to your decision makers, they're not going to trust you, and then whatever other tools, other events you want to plan, it's not going to be useful. Sometimes you just have to swallow your pride and say, yep, they got through. Okay. One of the things I think the break time, and the way I said it a little bit differently, is the mean time to return to normalcy, right? When you detect an attack, were you able to shut it down, right? And how fast did you shut it down, and how fast were you able to have confidence that you're back online with correct data, with or that you have enough protection so that you can detect further attacks. When you're operating in an environment, in an environment contention, you cannot really shut down, right? If you're a bank, if you're a airline, if you detect something, you cannot go, okay, everybody shut down the computers so we can analyze, or unplug that computer from the web. Let's figure out what happened. If that happens to be your main server or your cluster of servers, then you just brought down the business to its knees, right? So understand, how do you bring that back up part of the network? How often can you do it? How fast you can do it? It is going to be important to report to the customer or to your decision maker, or even to you, right? If you realize there's nothing you can do to after your crown jewel goes down, and you couldn't bring it up for more than 5 hours, is that acceptable? It might be in some environments, and it might not be. Understand those, right? This is the next part, is determining if there's enough gates to provide defense in depth. To me, this is just Anthony Choi speaking, and you guys can agree or disagree. There is no way we can catch everything. One of the jobs of cybersecurity and understand your posture is, do you have enough things to stop those people to come into your environment, right? And do you have enough time to give yourself enough time to respond to it? Again, so let's go back to the last step, right? What is the mean time to return to normalcy? If it takes someone maybe an hour with them, to get into the part of it that you cannot lose, but it takes you 5 minutes to detect it, that's a great thing. Now you're going to start reacting to the capability, right? That's good. But if it takes an hour for someone to get into a certain environment, and it takes like 2 hours for you for your gates to respond to it, that's not good. So those are two things combined, and that's where you're going to fine tune your defense and fine tune your capability, right? And that's when can you trust your IPS? If your IPS is responding too quickly and not understanding what is normal, that might shut down your system. But if you have done all these analysis, done enough blue teaming, you can probably run your IPS on its own and turn it into more learning mode, or react to it a little bit differently based on your test results. Prioritize and implement. Now that you know all these capabilities, you need to know what the mean time of return to normalcy is. Now you know whether or not enough gates. How do you pay for them, right? Who is going to pay for them? How are you going to react to them? Who's going to implement all these controls that you're going to do? That is something that you have to put in the operational environment. Make sure it happens. I think sometimes I have seen situations where people treat blue teaming as vulnerability analysis, and they just kind of go, okay, well, these are the problems. This is what we're faced with, and not implement what they learned back into the system. Well, then what is the point, right? Blue teaming is a fun. But trust me, red teaming and blue teaming is a fun game. It is exciting when you're in the room. It's awesome to see the red team laughing, or okay, they're not supposed to be laughing, but I've been in situations where it's more collaborative, where you can hear the blue team getting excited, and you just know that that means they found something. As a red team, they respond to it and go, "Uh oh, some of our attacks have been found. Let's figure out which one it is, and deploy another attack." Right. So it can be fun. It is really fun. It's really exciting. But how are you implementing it? How are you going to make sure it is in the system? And lastly, repeat the exercise. I know we're not talking about pen testing here, but as a blue teamer, you've got to be able to go, okay, maybe every half year we do a red blue team event, that so that we know what the new attacks are out there. Have we done what we have set out to do, to prioritize and implement? And you'll be surprised. Sometimes I myself have been situations where we thought we implemented something that would augment the control. By the nature of implementing something, we have inadvertently opened up another vulnerability that we did not think of. Right? That just happens. That is going to happen. And you just have to go, okay, I know that if I add something new in the system, it is a new attack vector. That's just the way it is. Do it and run the test again and see what happens. There is no perfect cybersecurity, and that's the first thing that I've learned all these years is there is no such thing as a secured system. It just happens to be a system that has security in it, right? Don't think that you can set something, you fix something, it is good to go. Because, as we all know, protocols can be attacked. Maybe it might not be a attack vector now. In a year or two, someone's going to find something in those protocols and say, yep, I can attack it. So don't think that you have a secure system. Think of it that you need to constantly be aware of what's going on so that you can actually put security inside your system.
Hi, Anthony. I do have two questions.
Sure.
The first question, how often in your experience do you run this exercise, blue team exercise versus red team? Is it just based on certain projects and programs? Is that how you determine?
It all depends on. So that's a good question. I know that it all depends on the decision makers and how much money they want to do yours, right? For the nature of what I do, there's a lot of regulations that say thou shalt, you need to be able to test it with multiple times with this time frame of your production or of your development environment. And then I raised my hand and said, who's going to pay for it? And silence. Oh, I don't know. I thought it was that person. Oh, no. This is not budgeted. I think it's someone else. So even though by regulations we're supposed to do that, that could be an interesting proposition, right? So that's why you got to be able to be flexible and convince people that that they need to do this. And then once they see the results and see that cybersecurity does have a systematic approach to it, people is going to be more willing to let you do the exercise, right? That's why I said at the very beginning, demystify cybersecurity. I mean, cybersecurity and IT I think, are the two most thankless jobs, right? If it works, everyone just assume it works. If it's broken, if something broke, it's your fault. And you're like, wait, what? Out of 365 days, everything works. One, didn't, and now we became the bad guy. That is going to be the thing. And for me though, people freak out when my team shows up, or when we are in certain teams, they're like, oh no, we broke some rules. Well, no, you didn't. We just want to make sure you don't. So the timing of it really depends on the company. It really depends on how well integrated you are in the business units, how comfortable they are with you, so that they do not see you as a obstacle versus a partner that is going to give them the ability to continue working.
Thanks, Anthony. I have a second question.
Sure.
What you really thought about it, because Dante mentioned about honey files, honey creds. Do you use deception technology? I've heard at least three I went to like conferences, at least
Uh-huh.
three speakers talk about using deception technology. So can you talk a little bit about that?
So again, this is me talking, and I love honeypots and honey nets, right? I do, because if you do it right, and I'm going to stress the word if you do it right, you are going to be able to understand what people are going after in your business. If you do it wrong, and I will submit to you that a lot of times we're going to miss something, because somehow your honey net you have to capture, in order for it to look decent, you will have one or two connections back to your regular environment. That's just at least some of the stuff I've seen, right? If you do it incorrectly, you have just increased your attack factor into it. It is still, I have yet to see one that is that where I am I am saying I've yet to see one that says, hey, we're so good at protecting it, there is no concerns. There's always concerns, because now you're just opening yourself up to more. But I don't think they are bad tools. I think that if you understand your system well enough, and this is why these kind of exercises is important, is that you need to know that system better than people who build it and use it. And you will, and once you do that, and I'm comfortable with building a honey net, and a honeypot or honey files, whatever it is. It is an important tool, but don't just randomly build one and think that that's going to save you, because if you don't understand the system, it will hurt you, and that is not a good thing.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, lastly, these are some of the tools that we have used. These are not meant to be comprehensive. These are kind of things that I would like you guys to think about. It's not the tool, it's why they are there, right? Kali Linux, you gotta love them. They just give you, they are meant to pen test. They are meant to create problems for you. So that's something for you in your toolbox. A lot of times, this is why I think blue teamers have a tougher job than red teamers, is that not only do they have to attack the system so that they can protect the system, and then they still have to protect the system. Red teamers, they just go, hey, yo, you give me the vulnerability, I'm just gonna attack. They don't have to worry about how to protect it. Red team sounds cool, but think about, in order for you to protect your environment, you have to hack it first. So a blue teamer actually have to have both sets of skills, a hacker mentality with a responsibility to bring the system back up. So it's a cool thing. So these are the tools. If you look at it, you're pretty much using the same, using a lot of same tools, right? That they're using, because that's how you gain your attack surface. You know what your attack vectors are and how to get in your system. But a lot of this is, the National Vulnerability Database, NVD, and also the Exploit DB is going to help you to go, okay, what are some of the existing capability out there? I saw some people talk about 0 days in the chat. There are going to be 0 days out there you don't know about. That's the point of putting enough gates up there, so that you can detect it. You can detect if something goes out of normal. Then you can react to it. You might not have a solution for it. That's okay. You want to deter those people as long as you can until there's a solution to your 0 day attack. Otherwise, look up the National Vulnerability Database, all the NVD, and go to miner.org to look at the CVEs. Those are going to be things that you can get yourself what's the right word? So you familiarize yourself with what are common attacks out there already. Nexus, Netcat, and Nmap gives you ability to scan the environment and see what you need to do. Metasploit, I like using it, not because I like using it just because I kind of look at it and go, oh wow, those tools are already out there. Those capability is already there. You still have to configure the payloads to do what's supposed to do on your network, but you kind of see what the attacker's minds are at. Back to Nexus and Wireshark gives you the ability to understand what your posture is at this point. tools, SIMs like Splunk, Oracle, or LSTAT, gives you ability to collect the data that you need to understand what your network is like. Using those tools, using those tools is going to help you gauge what you have and what kind of data is being passed by you. What is normal? What's not normal? That's going to be very important. So I think this is my get off the stage slides. Actually, yep, that's all I have for introduction to blue teaming. It's really give you an overall view as to what blue teaming really means. What are some of the steps? What is the ultimate goal? One of the ultimate goals, as we talked about, is giving the decision makers what they need to know. If they need to provide resources, are they okay? And really convince them to go, look, we can do this safely. Let us do this a lot more often. But anyway.
Thank
Any
you,
questions?
Anthony.